Hello, everybody. We're set for the next video, the rest of Nixon's presidency. A few vocabulary words for the day. Be sure to read through these to have an understanding before we move into the rest of the video. First on the agenda for the day is looking at Nixon's presidential campaign, specifically his 1968 one, but we'll also look into the results of the 1972 election. As we know by now, 1968 is a very happening year. And when we look at the Nixon candidacy for president, he really relies on this silent majority in the United States. So at the time, counterculture is making a lot of noise. It's very anti war. It's the hippies. It's people that are young and brash and loud compared to this middle of America that is not speaking out. And Nixon and his campaign managers really do believe that they are speaking to this large number of Americans that will determine what happens in the 68 election. And for the most part, they are correct. Nixon does win the presidency. And it really does illustrate, at least on some level, the generation gap between the youth, the young, the counterculture, and this middle America, this traditional family value type mindset. And Nixon takes advantage of that, obtaining a lot of their votes. So if Nixon's election of 68 was any indication that things were going well for him and his understanding of middle America was a good one, then the 72 election only enhances that. So he was viewed by Americans, by many Americans, as successful, not only for in general, kind of his understanding of how to campaign, but also his policy that was introduced in 68 of Vietnamization that appears to be effective enough for Americans as troops are coming home. And sure enough, he's following through, if you will, on the policy, and he takes states left and right in that 72 election and once again wins office. Next, let's dive into Nixon's presidency, and we're for the most part looking at his first term because his second term is dominated by Watergate. It's easy to focus on Nixon and Watergate as kind of that is who Nixon was as president, and it ended in catastrophic failure. But there were successes along the way, one of which was Detonation. So, how was Detonation accomplished? And because of the Cuban Missile Crisis, both the United States and the Soviet Union see that as a major, major issue, too close to nuclear war. So post Cuban Missile Crisis, there's a little bit more willingness to cooperate with one another. So the détente is something that develops out of it, and we see things like the SALT Treaty. We see another one down the road as well. And the United States is part of this, the Soviet Union, rather, is also a part of this um, interest. Both sides have interest in easing tensions between the two countries. We see this with Nixon in his interest in creating a diplomatic relationship with China. He actually goes to visit communist China in 1972, if I'm not mistaken. And it starts to normalize U.S.-China relations. And then after that, the United States citizens also begin to visit China. This is something that just would not have happened in years prior. In the domestic sphere, Nixon creates new programs such as the EPA and the DEA, the Environmental Protection Agency. There's a big environmental push right now. Someone like Rachel Carson in her book, The Silent Spring, actually make the improvement or the focus on improving environmental conditions, very much a global movement. And Nixon, if you will, helps out this cause with the EPA. There are a number of economic challenges, or at least one very particular economic challenge, and that is we start to see stagflation occur during Nixon's presidency. At one point, he does issue a price freeze on gasoline, and that is one of the main reasons for the stagflation that is occurring. And is we see the beginnings of an energy crisis during his presidency. That continues with Jimmy Carter's presidency. Finally, Nixon really struggles or really dislikes the counterculture movement, the protesting, and believes that people are out of control. The youth is out of control. So we see the formation of Nixon become a law and order president. This is not necessarily a success or a failure, but this does have large ramifications moving forward with his presidency and later Republican presidencies. Finally, post Watergate, Ford replaces Nixon, Vice President Ford, that is. So Gerald Ford replaces Nixon as president, and Nixon has at this point stepped down from his presidency. He feared that he was shortly to be removed from office. And Ford, trying to make the country kind of heal itself from having its president step down, seeing a lot of corruption that was taking place in Washington, Ford decides that it does not need to see its president possibly go to jail like so many political party members have since Watergate and the scandal broke. Um, so what does Ford do? He pardons Nixon. And once again, the credibility gap that the public perceived between what the government was telling them and the truth of what was happening is at play here. Once again, after the pardon, society sees government as corrupt, and the credibility gap once again widens. Shortly, we'll talk about the impact on the next election regarding that credibility gap and this issue with the pardoning of Nixon. Until next time.